Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this afternoon or morning, stateside, we're joined by Dave Feldman, who is an entrepreneur from Washington. And he's a co-founder of Virtuals Matters, which is a business he and his wife run. And we'll have a little chat about business, entrepreneurship, networking, virtues, and all sorts of other things. So how are you doing today, Dave? You okay?
I'm good, Mike. Yeah, thanks. Nice to be here. It's about Washington, D.C. There are two different Washingtons. We're on the East Coast.
Okay,
Nice to chat
yes.
with you.
Yeah, well, it's brilliant. And me and Dave have met a while ago now, a few months ago, I'd say, on a networking event which he's involved with Gerald Hammond, which is, I think it's called networkonzoom.com, speed networking. So check that out, anyone who's interested in going online networking. There's lots of people from the US and all around the world on that event, and I've been loads of times, and it's a great event. So yeah, how did you get involved in that, Dave?
So that's interesting. So I've known Gerald for years, and when the pandemic hit, the work that I do is I'll share more later, but it's called Virtues Matter, and it's essentially about helping establish good relationships, both with yourself and with others. And Gerald and I got to speaking. It's like we both saw a need for people to connect with each other when all of a sudden there was social distancing, people were getting lonely, people were really struggling because they weren't both in business and in their personal lives able to get out and about. So Gerald had me come on as one of the kind of co-hosts, and when we break into breakout rooms each week, we choose a different virtue, which are universal positive qualities of character, to kind of frame the conversation. So we've really been about just connecting people, whether it's for business or for just their own personal well-being.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'm an award-winning networker. So I won Networker of the Year in 2018 at IntroBiz, which is, well, I always used to say was Wales's biggest business network. And they also did Wales's biggest business shows. But they've actually pivoted to being an online global network now during the pandemic. And they've turned their expos for the time being into global summits, of which we just had one at the end of November. So I'm an award-winning networker. I was a member of Introbiz for 8 years, and then I joined the team in September this year. And so I professionally network now, as well as network for fun. And obviously, we're always growing a global community, which is why I'm always going on to global networking events. And I found the speed networking one, a few months ago, and I've loved it, and it's been great. And I highly recommend other people to go on it, as I do regularly. And I'm always on there trying to get people to come to our networking event at Introbiz, which is a bit of a struggle because ours is 9 till 11 in the morning on a Friday, which is not a very good time for the US. So
Yeah.
it's only really good for non-Americans, for sort of Europe and the East for now. But we're going to be doing Wednesday afternoons or evenings next year at some point. And then all my American friends can come along to some of our networking events. But go to Zoom, was in networkonzoom.com and check out the event. And we'll leave that there on the event, but it's an awesome event. And I love the virtues bit of it as well. But that really gives the networking event a bit of difference, a bit of originality, etc. Tell us a little bit about the virtues matter, and all of that side of your business, Dave.
Yeah. So what we do is with virtues, we there's a number of different things. So the Virtues Project, our work is based on what's called the Virtues Project. And it's an organization that's been around for about 32 years, started in 1988. And essentially there were three founders that were killing themselves and others. They were just harming themselves. They weren't living really full lives. And part of it was because there was a lack of meaning and purpose in their lives. So the three founders came out and said, what can we do to kind of help address that? And they did some research, and they came up with these principles of called virtues that help people bring their best. And it's really about establishing the practice of things like compassion, commitment, kindness, reliability. These are words that we hear: love, justice, in us, but sometimes they need to be cultivated in different ways. So the founders could put together these 5 strategies that people can practice them. And my wife and I have kind of taken that over. She's been doing it for about 15 years. I joined her in the beginning of 2019. We developed a mobile app called the Virtues Cards, and we do a random pick. So one of the things I would do is I can pull up the Virtues card, you shake your phone, and boom, you get a virtue. And I just did that, and I got the virtue of strength, for example. And often networking events will read a card, and I can do that if you want. Right now we can read a card, and for example, then we'll share what strength means to us in our lives, and it really elicits a good conversation. So
I'm happy to do that.
some of the work that we do is, there's a comment that Mike, that you and I have said a few times. It's before you jump into these Zoom meetings, you connect with people before you jump into content. Connection before content. So it's a real way to help people connect and just kind of slow down and kind of pace yourselves, and then you get to work in a different capacity.
Yeah, definitely. And, I'm big into sort of mission, vision, and values and virtues, are very intertwined, if you like. And, I think, I've had the joy of getting involved in some of these virtue conversations and reading some of the cards. The cards are always good, and people always like me reading them because I've got a Welsh accent. And
Yep.
it's a little bit different than the normal American accent. So just like, people always love listening to the things they're not so used to, And so I'd be happy to read and do a virtue with you and talk about what that means to us, because that would be a unique episode for my podcast and my YouTube channel. I always love mixing things up a bit, because I think creativity is one of the virtues and the values that I value most. And I'm always up for a bit of anything different.
Yeah. So what I did is I had shaken my phone and I pulled up the strength card. So I just dropped a PDF of that in the chat. So if you want, I'll read the front of the card and you read the back of the card. How's that?
That sounds good.
And then we'll have a quick chat about strength. So strength. Strength is the inner whatever comes. It is our capacity to endure in the midst of tests. We grow in strength as if we tackle life's challenges with courage and determination. We deepen in strength when we choose gentleness and practice patience. We stay strong when we recognize that suffering is a thread woven through the design of our lives, not to make us unhappy, but to transform us with grace. And then I would, on the phone, you can double tap it and it flips the card over. And then, can you see the card there, Mike?
Yes, I managed to save it to my desktop and open it up just in time. So character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, vision cleared, ambition inspired, and success achieved. By Helen Keller. The practice of strength. I have the power to endure my tests. I willingly face the challenges of my life. I have the courage to persevere. I cultivate gentleness and patience. I understand the purpose of suffering. I trust the value of transformation. I am thankful for the gift of strength. It empowers my soul.
So, Mike, how does strength resonate with you at this moment in time in your life? What's that mean to you?
Well, things happen in a weird way, yeah. But my name's Armstrong, and that name, by mythology, by a book I bought and purchased on the history of my name. That name was given to somebody in battle who saved the king by reaching down off a horse and lifting him up with his arm. That's apparently how I got my surname, yeah? But strength to me means sort of almost everything, I've got strong in my name, and I'm strong of stature and mentality. And I've actually got a mastermind group, which I run on a Sunday and a Wednesday, which is called Strong Communicators. And it is both full of people who are good at communicating, but who are also strong people who can communicate. So strength, how you pick that one randomly, I don't know. But it's a virtue, it's a word, it's a mission, it's everything to me, really. So very random, but a very good virtue to choose.
Which is fantastic. So first of all, I want to honor you for your strength of character, your strength of purpose. Since I've met you, you've always been a real active voice in that networking group, and you bring a lot of positivity to it as well. So I see that, and that is hysterical that that was the card that came up. I didn't even make that connection when you said Armstrong until you said that. We often say, and this is not real, but it's, you know, when you do your first shake, and I've done many of them, so I would say that shake was for you. The first card that you pick is often a strength virtue of yours. So in virtues, which means who you are, and it's not a judgment. So we would never say it's oh, I don't have strength. You would say it's a growth virtue. So it's something that you might be working on. So it's either a strength or a growth opportunity for you. So beautiful. And for me, strength, I like this. The first line is very powerful. The strength is the inner power to withstand whatever comes. Man, this has been 1 year for everybody that we've all had to really practice and develop our strength. You know, it's been something that we've been tested. And, you know, I mean, I think a lot of people, you know, what's the old expression? It's like, we're all in this together. Yeah, but we're all on the same ocean, but we have different boats. You know, I mean, everyone's going through a different experience right now, and trying to sort out whether it's your job, your family members going through a crisis, or any number of things. And, you know, in some ways, being the positive optimist, I'm saying, you know what, this is an opportunity that we've really had to cultivate our strength. That once we hopefully get through this year, that we'll be stronger as individuals. We'll have a different set of values and virtues in us. And, you know, these are the things that we need sometimes to be can be.
Yeah, well, I have three quotes which I use quite regular, which demonstrate my synergy with strength, if you like. And one of them is, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, as the song goes. And that's something that is a mantra of mine, because it's something that only when the going gets tough do I really get going. And I've really got going in this pandemic, because I'm a warrior. I like a battle, and
Yeah.
when it's not, you know. Time to shine on the battlefield, I'm a bit more lost. I don't know. It's not my place to step up, if you like, you know. So that's one thing. Another one, which I say quite a lot, which I really is a mantra of mine as well, and that's winners never quit, and quitters never win. And another one which I love, which is a quote from Rocky, that famous philosopher, and that is, life's not about how hard you can hit, but how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Perfect.
that's what this pandemic has been this year. It's not about what you can do, but it's about what you can sustain and still keep moving forward. And I've been through a lot in my life. I'm full of strength of character and strength of tenacity and all those sort of things. And I don't care what life has to throw at me. I'm always going to keep moving forward, and I'm never going to stop, because that's just the way I'm built.
Yeah, you know, one of when you and I were talking earlier, you know, I worked at the British Embassy here in Washington, D.C. for a little while. And one of my favorite quotes comes from a man who's standing. It's a fascinating statue. In the British Embassy, there's a statue of Winston Churchill, and he's got 1 foot forward and 1 foot backward. Well, when you're in an embassy, that's sovereign soil. That means this in UK. So he's got 1 foot standing in the UK and 1 foot in the United States. And one of his quotes, which I use all the time, is never, 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 never. I think it's 5 nevers, give up.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit like, it's perseverance, but it's also strength. It's like, you know, you have to have the strength of resolve to push through whatever you're going through. So anyway, thank you for indulging me on a virtues pick, and I'm glad it resonated with you. And you are Mike Armstrong.
Yes, definitely. And the thing is, with an Armstrong, with a strong arm, with a reaching down and picking someone else up, you know, that is what I do. That is what my life mission is to help others, to pick them up when they're down. So, you know, it so resonates with me. It's and actually buying a book, actually, it's the first time I ever thought of that. I bought a book about the name of my name, and it was about somebody on a horse picking up the king and saving him in battle. And I never really realized that is what I'm doing right now in life. Is I'm trying my best to pick as many people up when they're down on the battlefield, and to help them get past as new, you know, on the battle.
I think that's interesting, Mike. I think it's one of the big takeaways that a lot of people are going through at this moment in time, is that, you know what, we all need to help each other a bit, you know, and that's a little bit of the work that we do through Virtues Matter. Is it's really about helping people be their best. And part of that is being of service to others. is helping others, when they're down. And, even, we get on those networking calls and, yourself and others alike, it's like, how can I help you? How can I help you? I mean, it comes from a place of generosity, of service. And, Armstrong is a perfect metaphor for that, where, this pandemic has kind of forced us to look at some people need a lot of help right now, whether it's the government helping you, a business helping you, or just you as an individual, as a friend or family member. It's a chance to really kind of support others in this challenging time. And hopefully that's kind of a positive behavior and a mindset that will carry forward even after this time.
Yeah, because like you said, Virtues was about building relationships, and relationships are needed more. The strength of relationships and the offering of a relationship to someone who doesn't have many in their life is the key thing that people can do at this moment in time. People are like, well, how can I help people? I'm going through it myself, except just picking up the phone or just knocking the door and asking if somebody, or putting a letter through the door asking if anyone needs any help, or do you want a conversation, or do you need anything at the shops? Those sort of things, which are very simple, easy things to do, but they can be random acts of kindness, and they can help everybody get through these tough times of isolation.
Yep, very well said.
Yeah, definitely. So, so what's the sort of total product and service range at Virtuals Matter? Because you mentioned the app, you mentioned, I think briefly, you do some courses as well. So tell us through everything that you do.
Yeah, so we do a number of things, and it depends on the client. So often the Virtues Card app it's a free download, and then you can buy a full deck of cards for 99 cents or $1.99 US from within. So that's kind of the starting of a journey. We have a thing we say, it's the plan, and the plan is an acronym for pick daily. So you just do a daily virtues pick and just watch it, how it makes you think about things differently. It just kind of gives you a way to frame your day. Look for the positive in yourself and others. Acknowledge people often for the good that you see in them and teachable moments. So there's a little bit of teaching that goes with each of those, but it's really about helping you kind of interact with others and be relationships. And I wanted to focus on for a moment is look for the positive yourself and others. There's all sorts of statistics now in business and even in your families that I will say something mean to someone 10 times more likely than I will say something nice to somebody. In the family and in the workplace, it's 14 times as much. So we often don't compliment people for the good that they see in others. So we actually taught people how to use virtues language. So you may have noticed earlier that I acknowledge you for your strength and your purposefulness and your kindness and such as that. So there are strategies on how to help people integrate that into the culture. So we do workshops. We take 5 strategies of the Virtues Project, and we teach people about that. The first one is speaking the language. So you can thank, you can acknowledge and appreciate, you can guide and correct people in ways that's not like negative. It's like, Mike, shut up, man. I don't like what you're saying. That's not effective. There's other ways of talking to people that makes them feel honored and heard.
Yeah, like
I
understand your enthusiasm, but we need to move on to another point,
Okay.
And that sort of thing, rather than just shutting someone down, etc. But I think it's brought on by a culture of negativity, and people will say bad things more often, they hear bad things more often, because the news and the media and all these sort of places are constantly full of negativity. And I've heard, I don't know if it's right or not, but I think you will remember one negative thing in an equal equation to 13 positive things. So you have to hear 13 positive things to get the same memory of that positive thing. And if somebody says one negative thing, so whereas there's, say, 95% bad news and 5% good news, if that in the newspapers and on the news and that sort of thing, you really needed to be 13 times more good news than the 1% bad news, or the 5% bad news, for you to actually remember the day as being positive rather than negative, because we hold on to negative thoughts more. So I think what you're doing, and sort of what I do in my podcast and everything, and that's getting people to think about the positive language that they use and the positive values that they appreciate and the positive virtues. It's all about, trying to, I'm on a mission myself, trying to be the anti-balance, if you like. I'm a Libra, trying to be the positive side to the world where there's so much negativity being shared and being aired and viewed and printed all the time.
Yep. And I was just acknowledging you before, is like, you even said it before, you kind of got it right when you said, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but we need to move on right now. That was an example where you acknowledge somebody for something positive and then you guide them. And there's other ways that you give evidence and there's different strategies, but you were going down that path where you acknowledge somebody for a positive and then guide them and say, but we need to be, orderly, or we need to be something, and move on with our podcast and things like that. So these are just simple strategies that, one example of how you can actually use language to, better create positive relationships in the workplace and the home.
Yeah, it's the same as like if you choose, if you see an obstacle, a lot of people will see them as failures, but if you see it as an obstacle or a challenge, so if you use the language of, okay, this is an interesting challenge, how do I overcome it? Then that gives you the ability to be creative and find ways around a problem. Because if you look at something and go, okay, this is like a disaster, and you can't see anything through the disaster, it's just a disaster. You framed it in the wrong way, you viewed it the wrong way, and it's going to mean that you've hit a dead end and a barrier to the disaster, rather than seeing it as a way to be creative of overcoming the challenge, And this pandemic was a massive challenge to the human race that we have actually overcome. We've met that challenge. We've faced it head on, and we've come up with a lot of the answers. Yes, we've lost some people along the way, but that's what's going to happen when you've got to kill a virus. You can't get through life unscathed. But we have, as a human race, managed to work together, collaborate. To get PPE, to get ventilators, to get a vaccine now. And at some point, this challenge will be over. Just like any challenge that anyone ever gets in life, it can always be overcome. You just got to find a way to overcome the challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well said. Good discernment.
Yeah. Thank you for that, and good observation too. And yeah, I think that's the thing that I like to spread, is that positive message that no matter what life throws at you, if you're resilient and if you're willing to take on the challenge, there will always be a way around it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad you used that word, resilience, right now, and it's a big theme, and it's a lot that we're doing right now, whether it's looking at how our communities become more resilient or how we as individuals become more resilient. This has been a wake-up call to start to say, when there's a challenge, we need to look at the whole systems and all the things around us. We might be able to eat well, we might be physically fit, but if we don't have the right kind of jobs and communities and start looking out for each other to make sure that we have resilience built in, that's really key. And at the end of the day, no matter what happens, it starts with you or me or whatnot. It starts with ourselves. So how do we create that resilience within our own selves so that we're psychologically, physically, spiritually fit to be able to address whatever comes our way? And, there are practices, that allow you to do that. I mean, at the end of the day, whether you believe in positive affirmations or certain things that you read, you think about the food that you put in your body. What you put in you is who you become. So there's ways to really build up that resilience in yourself. It's kind of like an antibody of sorts to create, go back to the word strength, go back to be strong, to be able to handle whatever comes your way.
Yeah.
So we actually renamed one of our cards the resilience cards, because they're short little hits of inspiration. Sometimes it's like a dopamine. You just need a little hit of dopamine to kind of get that flowing in your brain so that you can actually look at the world more positively.
Yeah, and I think how we can build resilience is we got to stop mollycoddling our kids and toughen them up a bit, because resilience comes through the exercising of the muscles, if you like. And if you protect people from being able to exercise their strength muscles, then they won't build up the strength to be resilient. So I think that's why the human race, say for example, after the war, was pretty resilient. You know, the war generation were a resilient bunch because they were exercised and trained in the art of resilience. And then they brought that onto their next generation, and so that generation was pretty resilient too. But every generation it loses a little bit of the resilience as you're not tested and exercised. It's just passed on, and then this pandemic has come along now, like, you know, 80 odd years after the war generations, etc., probably at a time when the next generations were getting way too soft and less exercised in the art of building up strength and resilience to knockbacks and setbacks and all sorts of situations. And so hopefully this will be a bit of a reset as well to put a bit of resilience back into some of those next generations, because, you know, thankfully there's not a war which has built up that resilience in humankind, but it's a man versus virus battle which is building the resilience up in this generation.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I don't often use the word mollycoddling, so but that's, yes, we have definitely become softer in some ways, and I think there's an opportunity to become aware of, you know, where we can get stronger in different other ways as well. So, you know, things work in cycles. It's kind of interesting, but this is definitely a wake-up call to look at the world very differently right now and change our perspectives.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it does start with the younger generation, because, you know, if they grow up resilient, then they'll become resilient adults. But, you know, they start off being sort of, you know, spoiled and, you know, allowed to get away with things and all the rest of it. Then they take that into the world, and then, you know, they're not fully prepared for what they find. You know.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I got a chance to write a blog series, and I got a chance to do it with the original founder of the Virtues Project, and she's almost 80 right now, upper 70s, and it was quite an honor for me. The name of it was A Whole New World: 7 Virtues for the Great Reset. And one of those was resilience, and looking at how we need to look at resilience again within ourselves and within others. But we also looked at gratitude, you know, the art of appreciation. You know, to look at what we do have. Sometimes we focus on what we don't have. One of them was about unity, which was about how we bring people together. One was compassion, you know, to kind of create a world that's a little bit more compassionate towards others. Discernment was our first one, which is getting you, what questions do we need to ask? What do we need to hear from others? And things like that. So these are really good frames for thinking. And, you know, one of the decks has 100 virtues, but these 7 were really kind of foundational to what you just call like the reset, because we are at a little bit of a reset if we choose to make it that way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, the virtues and these sort of things, they're not, they used to be passed down by, I would say the war generation, you know, that gritty, you know, generation of battlers and of people who were able to get by on limited resource and, you know, on you know, having to just do whatever they needed to do to get involved and to help, like, you know, but they weren't precious, you know what I mean? They were willing to roll up the sleeves and get stuck in. And I think those sort of virtues they were put into me by my grandparents. You know, they were in the RAF and they met in the war and all that sort of thing. And those virtues were passed on to me. But I think they need to be taught in school. You know, I think because every generation, the parents have less of those sort of values and virtues in them, and so less gets passed on, so it gets diluted generation after generation after generation. So if somebody was actually, you know, implemented it in the school system.
I take a little bit of issue with that. Like, I think, yeah, I mean, I definitely think there was a grittiness back when your, you know, grandparents in the RAF and other things as well. And I'm not necessarily sure we've lost our virtues. Although sometimes you would wonder when you look at, you know, our politicians who aren't always honest and have integrity and things as such.
That's the sort of thing that I mean. Yeah, you know, like our politics before, they used to be wanting to fight a cause for a reason, but now they want to sort of, you know, get their noses in the trough and take as much money, and you know, they're on the take and they're not really in it for the right reasons. And I think society in general has broken down a bit more that way. I think that war generation wasn't perfect, and you know, I think they weren't very emotional and very loving and stuff, and that's changed now. And there are pluses and minuses, but I think, in general, a lot of the core values that make, people get on and give people resilience and that sort of, strength of mind and character and that sort of thing. Some of that's lost, when for example, we stopped, coppers being able to put kids around the ear and, respect to the elders and sort of senior figures and authority, and all got diminished. And then it's like, well, you're not allowed to have competition. Everyone's a winner in school. There's just lots of things that have happened, maybe that have made people softer. Even things like not playing out in the streets anymore, but playing indoors on a computer. All sorts of things like that have meant that generations have got, in my view, softer over the years.
Yeah, it's interesting. What I like to say, and we say that there are many different virtues. I mean, virtues are actually universal positive qualities of character. They're across all religions, all sacred texts. Even Aristotle and Socrates, they were defining a lot of those. And sometimes you can actually look at people who focus on some virtues like strength or, steadfastness or endurance, but they forget some of the other ones. So, it's interesting. Sometimes having too much of one and not enough of another means that you're not balanced. So I wouldn't say we're necessarily getting away from virtues, but we're definitely focusing on some more than others. And there's been a shift. So, the key is really having a balance. Too much strength without enough kindness means that you're kind of ideally you're doing one thing and not another.
Caveman.
Too much kindness without some strength.
Yeah, you're a bit like a caveman, isn't you? Really, if
yeah.
you got
Perseverance without patience isn't good either. If you're driven but you're not patient with others, there's a downside either. So it is finding the right balance of these different things, and sometimes there's a lot of societal pressures to push you in one direction.
Yeah, definitely. But so what I was saying was, I think it'd be good if you put your, programs into schools to teach the kids, the value of virtues and to educate them, because I just think that maybe as well the family unit is broken down a little bit more as well. So I think young kids don't get some do, some don't, but they don't always get the values passed down to them by their grandparents or great grandparents, because people move away from their families and that sort of thing. And I think maybe a program or a system in schools educating people on the value of virtues would be good.
We actually do a lot in schools. My wife, that's where she started. Our main business that she started 15 years ago, I guess, is called The Heart of Education, and she won the Disney Teacher of the Year back in 2005. So she does a lot of her training in schools right now. We're actually working with one big one, which is really interesting. We were up early this morning in India, called City Montessori. 57,000 students in one school.
Oh, that's a big school.
So we've been working with the teachers because they're looking at that, because the teachers and the principals obviously, have influence on their communities and the students. So I think the students in a lot of ways have the answers. It's the grown-ups sometimes I start to worry about. Sometimes. I think we've all lost our way a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think there's some people who are brought up with certain beliefs, and then once they get to adults, they're set in stone and they're not going to change them. And I think that's what happens when people are either far left or far right. Is that they've been brought up that way, they're entrenched and they're not willing to look at the other side or other people's point of views. Whereas people who are willing to listen to others as well as pass on their own feelings, they move more towards the middle, because they're more willing to see other people's points of views and other people's perspectives,
Yep. And Mike, if I can just plug, we're doing a program right now, which we're working in partnership with the schools. We call it Share the Love. And LOVE is an acronym for Language of Virtues Everywhere. And it's as simple as acknowledging somebody for something positive that you see in them. And, you can do that on email and text, the cards, you can actually share it. So it's really about trying to lift up and make other people positive. So sometimes it's that easy to say, you know what, Mike, I see your determination in how you're, building up a podcast, or I see your passion in how you smile every time you talk about the work that you do, or your enthusiasm, and so on and so forth. So it's really about just acknowledging your kids, your parents, your coworkers and whatnot for good that you see in them. And it's not a bad thing. We can use a little bit more of that love right now in the world. So
Yeah, well, I encourage people to do random acts of kindness,
Just a
and
thought, if anyone, we have a whole Share the Love program.
yeah. Do you want to share the link for that, or to tell everyone how they get
Yeah. So
involved?
yeah. So the website is virtuesmatter.com. It's kind of like a sentence, virtues matter. And if you want to get to the Share the Love, it's virtuesmatter.com/love is the website. So, and we work, and if you're a teacher at a school and like, wow, I want to do this in my school, or if you're a business, that's the kind of thing that we do is we help these organizations kind of create more positive spaces, organizations, communities, and things as such. So,
Yeah, well, I encourage people to do random acts of kindness.
yeah.
In fact, I've got a formula, which is a happiness formula, which I'll tell you a little bit about in a minute. And it's about random acts of kindness every day as part of that formula. And I'm big into social media, do a lot of social media marketing. And there's a lot of non-kindness on social media. And I always encourage people to put a positive comment on, to like people's comments, like people's posts, share what you liked about it and stuff, because people are spending their time to create content and to help with inspiration or education and stuff. So it only takes 2 seconds just to like it or put a positive comment on and that sort of thing. And it helps with social media engagement and all of that sort of thing. So that's something which I always encourage to do. So, along the same sort of lines, the random acts of kindness, part of my smart happiness formula, is something which releases oxytocin in your brain. So it makes you happier. For doing things for other people, kind things for other people, makes you happier. So I love doing kind things for people all the time. But the rest of my formula is called the smart happiness formula. And it stands for sleep, meditation, ability to perform, random acts of kindness, and targets. So I might speak to you at some point off here about how I could turn them into some cards, because or even cards.
Yeah.
They make
Bring it on.
make some good cards because it's just daily things to do to make you happy, and you can delve deeper into into the sleep and the meditation and ability to perform, and have cards for different aspects of that. So that might be something. Maybe
Yeah.
did you do those yourself, or did you go to a company?
Well, the cards we work, many of the cards we work with, the Virtues Project, were originally designed by them, but we are designing new cards and adding new cards on. So we've got 6 different decks right now. We're adding 2 more early in the new year. One will be around for entrepreneurs, and then we're actually doing them in different languages right now as well. So we're working on a Hindi version for in India and a Spanish version as well. And there's others coming. There's a leadership group and things like that. So there's a lot of different opportunities. I mean, the cards, the application itself, you can just add new decks up, and then you can go pick whichever one you want and download a full deck of whichever card you like. And they're really, really inexpensive. They're just, the goal is to get it in as many hands as we can. And then hopefully, we'll do other work with them in other capacities. But we want the cards to go viral, and people love them. It's just getting in front of more people.
I'd love the contact for that, on how I can, design the cards and get them printed. A friend of mine in the UK has got a positivity card. She called PEP. I can't remember what the PEP stands for. It's positivity in people or something like that, I think. But she teaches a positivity and positive mindset, etc., to kids in school and that sort of thing. She's got her own cards as well. So yeah, I think it's a good way of getting your message out there in people's hands, tangible rather than just virtual.
Yep, exactly. You're on it.
Yeah, definitely. So I wouldn't mind a contact with someone who I could, if there's like it sounds to me like, there's like a design package which is linked to a printing system where you just print off the cards and get them sent in the post. Then is that how it works?
Yeah, well, we've been working mostly in the virtual world right now, just because they're easier to distribute through an app as opposed to physical cards. Making them physical cards is fine as well. What we have found, especially internationally, a lot of the work we do work all over the world, but the distribution comes out of the United States. So to ship a physical set of cards often is more expensive than the cards themselves. Yeah. So that's why digital, there's no shipping cost. It's different, but yeah, I mean, we can help you physically print cards and design them. That's pretty simple. It's just it's economics at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It depends on the quantity you need up front and
Exactly.
that sort of thing. Like you said, same as any print job, really.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And printing a
Okay.
physical card, you're going to pay 20 to 30 US dollars, 25, 35 pounds.
Yeah.
That's out of people's budgets sometimes. Although people do like both the electronic version and the physical version. So everyone has different learning styles or usage styles.
Yeah, well, I have been looking to put my happiness formula into an ebook, if you like, but I think the cards could be a good way of delivering it.
Yeah. You just reach out to me, Dave@virtuesmatter.com. I'm your man. I'll help you figure it out.
Brilliant, brilliant. I may well be in touch with that, but I'll leave you to it because we've done sort of 50 minutes now, or almost, I think. So I'd just like to say thank you very much for coming on the podcast and sharing all of your knowledge and information with us. And look forward to the next time because I'm sure there will be another one at some point.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate being on the podcast, and I appreciate all you do to spread positivity and help other people as well. It really is important, and you're modeling that and really showing it, in an excellent, a thoughtful way. So keep up the good work, and nice to meet you, listeners. Please feel free to reach out at some point, and look forward to connecting with others.
Brilliant. Thank you for your kind words, and I look forward to seeing you on the network on Zoom.com speed networking event, which will be. Is there another one after this Thursday? Is it running right the way through?
Yeah, as of now, they're Thursday. I don't know what time it is wherever your listeners are, but it's Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern time every week, and it goes for typically an hour and a half.
Yeah, my listeners are all around the world, but a big chunk of them UK wide. And for UK, it's sort of like I always put 7 till 9, but yeah, I think it finishes at 8 or half 8. But sometimes it goes on. It all depends how many people stay on, doesn't it? But,
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
And so, is it breaking for Christmas? Is this the last Thursday and then the New Year, or does it keep going?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, Gerald seems to plan to do it on the holidays since it's a global audience. So if Christmas Day falls on a Thursday, he probably won't do it. But any other day, he'll probably just keep on going right throughout the week. So I would anticipate just show up and if you have the details in front of you, just post that up there where people can go out and join. We have anywhere from 40 to 60 people on each time. It's a great way to meet new people from a professional standpoint, expand your network, and also just be heard and hear others. I mean, if you want to have connections with people, especially around the world, it's a great opportunity.
It's definitely great. I've had about, I'd probably say between 5 and 10 people from that network alone on my podcast. So I met some great people from it. So it's a wonderful thing, and it's a great thing that you're doing. So keep up the good work. And like I say, I look forward to the next time. We have a chat either at the speed networking or via LinkedIn and whatever, discussing this card setup and any other way we get to interact with each other.
Beautiful. Sounds good. Cheers, Mike. Thanks for having me on the show today.
All the best. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.